Newer building materials are more efficient and more flammable. We look at what's being done to keep homes in Colorado from burning. The CU Regent running for governor declines to say if she disagrees with the CU visiting professor who tried to overthrow American democracy. There's no public polling in Colorado's primaries for governor or senate. I'll tell you why those races look unexpectedly close.
My body is broken. I could start naming parts, but I won't.
Decades in a male-dominated industry, she proved to them women can do the job. Your Friday Good News takes us south of the border, where a Coloradan selflessly gives up her summer to help others. And farewell to a member of the next team, moving on to bigger and better things. It's a low bar, I know. But hey, this is next. Colorado's largest and most destructive wildfires have happened in the last 2 years. Are we learning lessons that can save lives and homes? Like, are we using the smartest building materials available? Our Anusha Roy looks at what's showing up in new construction.
A new build is a chance to do things right. The question is it happening?
The Denver Fire Department works very closely with the building department.
Greg Pixley with Denver Fire says construction materials have become more efficient and financially friendly.
Using smaller pieces of wood or steel.
But that also gives firefighters less time inside a home on fire because it burns faster. While firefighters know the best material to build out of,
traditional brick that was built like the manufacturing complexes and some of the buildings that you see in downtown Denver.
They also know that's not always realistic, especially when it comes to the cost of doing business. So they rely on building and fire codes. In Denver, the fire department is working with the city to make sure new builds are following those rules.
Gaining traction all over the place.
The good news is building with fire in mind is not out of reach. The right kind of roofing materials and non-combustible siding,
stucco and those kinds of things too that are also non-combustible,
are already being used. But Dr. Ian Giamanco with the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety said it's still not being used in mass, in part because we don't always think about it.
And that's something that we've struggled across all natural hazards here in the United States, is making sure we account for all of those hazards. And wildfire is one of those.
That means that fire departments like Denver would really love to have more conversations with developers about these building materials. You're also seeing cities and counties that have building departments directly working with builders, having those conversations, and that's mirroring a really big national conversation that's happening as well. A very robust conversation about this.
Like, at the end of the day, is it just cost, though, right? Because, like, if the best stuff was the cheapest stuff, we just use it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the Insurance Institute actually studied, right? How much is it going to cost to build a house with these non-combustible, fire-resistant materials versus not? It actually turned out to be pretty similar prices.
Really?
But where it gets really expensive is when you're starting to retrofit the homes that don't meet those standards, right? And that's where the money starts adding up.
It's hope and sense, at least, for new construction.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Anusha. The Republican candidate for governor, CU Regent Heidi Ganahl, is making some of her first public comments about the CU visiting professor that she praised before he tried to overthrow American democracy. In an interview with CPR News, Ganahl repeatedly refused to say if she disagreed with John Eastman's attempt to overthrow American democracy. The January 6th committee this week revealed that Eastman told members of Trump's team that he knew his plan to overrule the election results was illegal, and he asked for the president to pardon him. Eastman did not receive a pardon. Ganahl had previously praised Eastman for riling up some folks after he promoted a baseless legal theory that Kamala Harris was not eligible to be vice president. That was before the insurrection at the Capitol. Ganahl has declined to appear here and answer our questions. She was asked about her ties to John Eastman by Ryan Warner of Colorado Public Radio.
Well, when you decide to be a visiting scholar or represent CU, you have to think through your actions outside of the university and how that will affect the university. So as a regent, that bothered me.
Because you disagree with Eastman's relationship to Mr. Trump and overturning the election?
I would just say that, people need to think about their actions outside of the university when they're representing us as a visiting scholar.
Do you disagree with his actions?
I think, there was a lot that went on that was bad news for our country and for the University of Colorado being connected to it.
Ganahl tried to distance herself from Eastman in that interview by telling CPR News that she never met Eastman in person. We know that that is not for lack of trying on Ganahl's part. Emails obtained by our Marshall Zellinger show that Ganal repeatedly sought a lunch meeting with Eastman before and after the November 2020 election. Their plans to meet were called off because Eastman got sick. He told the New York Times that he caught COVID from the Trump team as they met to discuss how to overturn the election.
Greg Lopez is too conservative for Colorado.
Democrats meddling in Colorado's Republican primaries for governor and Senate certainly tells us something. Those Republican races are unexpectedly close, and that's news that voters should know. You got TV ads that paint Greg Lopez as too conservative in the governor's race, similar ads for Ron Hanks in the Senate race. It's a not very well disguised effort to entice conservative voters to support Lopez and Hanks, because Democrats think that they would be easier to beat in the general election. And there's a new mailer out that falsely claims that Hanks was endorsed by the Colorado Republican Party. Not true. The party is officially neutral in the primary. All this meddling and dirty tricks by Democrats gives us insight into just how close these Republican races likely are. And that's surprising. She's got two well-funded establishment candidates, Heidi Ganal for governor and Joe O'Dea for Senate, facing off against two far-right candidates who have very little money. Greg Lopez for governor, Ron Hanks for Senate. Those guys are trying to ride grassroots support for President Trump's big lie about election rigging. And it looks like those races are way closer than you might expect. Let me explain how we know that. Ganal and O'Dea have the money to poll their races. If their internal polls showed them solidly ahead of the underdogs, they wouldn't be flipping out like they are about this Democratic meddling. The Democrats getting involved also tells you that these races are unexpectedly close. I'm told it would cost about $15,000 to poll both races. There is no way the Democrats didn't spend $15,000 on polling to see if the races were close enough that they could be swung before the Democrats dumped in $1 million plus to meddle. So all signs point to tight primary races for governor and senator. So if you happen to be a Republican or unaffiliated voter who cares about who wins, go vote, because it looks like these races are close. Capturing carbon dioxide emissions before they reach our atmosphere. There's a company helping the state of Colorado test a new method of carbon capture at 2 ethanol plants. Our Corey Reppenhagen explains how it works.
When you fill up at the pump, in most cases there's about 10% ethanol mixed into the gasoline. Ethanol helps the fuel burn more completely and reduces emissions. But when it's manufactured, it releases carbon dioxide or CO2 into the atmosphere. CO2 is one of the main greenhouse gases responsible for climate change. 2 ethanol plants in Colorado, one in Sterling and another in Yuma, release about 350,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide every year.
That's a lot. That's the equivalent of emissions from about 75,000 vehicles.
Brent Lewis says his Arvada-based company, Carbon America, is teaming up with those 2 ethanol plants to stop the CO2 waste from reaching the atmosphere. It's a process called carbon capture and sequestration. Basically, a lid is placed over the smokestacks. The CO2 condensates into a liquid, travels down a pipeline, and gets injected into a nearby saline aquifer about a mile underground, where it's permanently stored. Lewis says the carbon is only detrimental in the atmosphere, not in the ground. So they're basically putting the carbon back where it came from. He says it will significantly reduce CO2 in the atmosphere, but it'll be nowhere near the scale needed to have a climate impact just yet. He says this operation is just a launch pad.
But what these projects allow us to do is really learn and get the system down, make sure we understand all of the elements associated with getting this perfectly permitted with the EPA and our state regulatory authorities as well.
Lewis says the ethanol plants were very willing to participate in this experiment because of new incentives from the federal government. Low-carbon fuel credits now come with the sale of decarbonized ethanol.
So the ethanol plant gets paid and is motivated to decarbonize its ethanol through means like carbon capture and sequestration to generate revenue, which in turn helps pay for the projects that we're developing.
Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
Carbon America says its research shows that its injection sites will not cause the environmental issues or earthquakes that have been associated with methane extraction sites. Could be 2 years or more, though, until that project gets started. Good question. Do N95 or KN95 masks help protect from wildfire smoke, like the haze over the Front Range today? That's the question from next viewer named Michelle, curious if masking up outdoors on smoky days would help. Michelle, the answer is kinda. Public health experts say you're honestly better off staying inside with the windows closed on a day like this if you're sensitive to smoke. They tell us that an N95 is helpful if you're going to be outside in smoky conditions, but that protection from the mask diminishes the longer you're out there. Remember, too, that the smoke that floats in from out of state, like what we're getting now, is actually worse for your health than smoke from nearby wildfires. And that's because only the smallest particles travel long distances, and those are the ones that can penetrate more deeply into our lungs. Hey, I've got an idea on how we can provide fresh food to families in our community who need it, as well as paychecks to young people whose families need those as well. The Farm School Network, a project of the nonprofit Montbello Organizing Committee, turns out more than 10,000 pounds of produce for food banks in Denver and also provides jobs for teenagers whose families could use the extra income over the summer. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me in giving to your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week. Since Wednesday, together you have raised more than $10,000 to both feed families and provide summer jobs for young people in our community. Thank you.
3 decades as a Denver firefighter, she did not always have the easiest go of it.
Paved the way for us and made it easier for us.
She's impacted a new generation of firefighters. And it's Friday. Tell us something that'll make us smile. Anything, your choice, because it's your good news. Next.
Hope you could hang out in the AC today. It was another scorching hot day, not just here in Denver, but truly across the Eastern Plains. Today's record high, 100 degrees, was actually last set just last year. Today, 99 degrees. That's where we ended up, just 1 degree shy of that record, but it was sizzling in Greeley at 101. Triple-digit heat coming across the far northeastern plains, up into Nebraska, parts of Kansas too. Low 80s in Kremling and 98 in Grand Junction. Everyone dealing with the heat, and we still have the heat advisory in place up and down the I-25 corridor, I-76 until 9 o'clock tonight with these just out of control temperatures, truly. Luckily, we have a bit of cloud cover and a few thunderstorms that are starting to push in. They're primarily across the high country tonight. We might find 1 or 2 pushing across the metro area, but they'll just give us some gusty winds, hopefully some slightly cooler temperatures later tonight. As we look at the futurecast, early tomorrow morning, a mix of sun and clouds to kick off your day. Scattered showers already beginning up in the mountains. They will become a bit more widespread. Nothing severe. By about 3-4 o'clock, here we go. They'll be rumbling throughout the metro area, so if you're at the pool, just kind of keep that in mind. Temperatures backing into the lower 90s, increase of clouds out there, and of course a few thunderstorms, but still sizzling out to the east. 60s and 70s up in the mountains. It does look like Father's Day. Well, whoops, wrong day, but we are going to be tracking a few storms Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, Kyle, of next week. We'll just spread out the love.
Hey, celebrate 2 days.
Yeah,
make it a double header for Dad.
Why not?
All right, thanks, Danielle. On Wednesdays, we wear pink, and on Friday, we share your good news. Crowdsourced off social media this week. Brendan found positivity even from a hospital bed. His second heart surgery in a month. But he says his good news is that he's headed home feeling good. We're thinking about you, man. Deanna shared that her daughter Liz is on her way to an immersive teaching experience in Mexico. Liz, a student at UNC, will be teaching English to middle and high school students in Zacatecas. Buena suerte, Liz. And Cindy's good news is that her dog Demi has finally figured out a way to get her tiny backside a view from looking out the car window. She just stands atop her sister, who's got the best dog name I've ever heard, Feliz Navidad. Share the joy in your life, because we know that you can make other folks smile right when they need it. Jump in line on the next Facebook page, post something in the comments.
Being a woman on the fire department, it's always a little bit of a challenge because you're never going to be as strong as the men.
But she was plenty strong. A trailblazer in the Denver Fire Department shares lessons learned from decades on the job. Next.
Denver Fire Station 30 celebrated the retirement of Sarah Aragon today. We caught up with her for 29 years of unique perspective.
Mary, you came!
They're all here for one reason.
I have to turn my keys in.
To celebrate Sarah Aragon
I'm going to be 53.
and her storied career as a Denver firefighter.
I'm in my 30th year, and it's just taken its toll.
28 of those years on an engine.
I'm going to miss that.
Not part of the original plan for this Wisconsin native.
I actually started out going to college for psychology because I knew that I always wanted to help people.
She helped people all the way to her last shift.
It was a man having a headache. He was almost 90.
Aragon was unique. She set herself apart in a mostly male industry.
I'm here to tell you today that she is not one of the best female firefighters in the world. She's one of the best firefighters. You know, we can take that term out. You did your job. You served the citizens with grace.
She was not afraid to be herself, which benefited the whole community.
One morning in there pouring coffee, and I hear, "Proby, get your ass out here."
She is stern, she is smart, and
I'm the most senior female in the history of the fire department.
she really leaves behind inspiration and hope for those who appreciate what she's accomplished.
I have so much honor for you.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Good luck.
Now she can spend time with her parents, her daughter, and her husband.
My husband says, "Are you going to be a girl now?" Baby.
For Next, I'm Tom Cole.
Sarah's daughter is following in her footsteps. She's training to be an EMT. We're back in a moment with a word about somebody who's leaving our next team and your feedback next. I bet there's someone you couldn't have made it through the pandemic without. A friend, a family member, a coworker, someone who got you through that challenge like we had never seen. One of those people for me was Kevin Larson, Next producer. He's leaving us for a new adventure in the tech industry.
Kevin Larson is what Next has always aspired to be. Serious about journalism and about nothing else. He stepped in to lead the Next team right before the start of the pandemic, suddenly thrown into working from his home with a show airing from my home. Unprecedented territory for a producer. Kevin was the leader we needed. Calm, confident, unflappable in the face of any challenge. Every morning we'd connect by phone to plan the show, and he'd always say the same thing. "We got a good show lined up today." Most of the time it was true. But just the fact that he said it, and we believed it, made all the difference. Kevin and Erin's family is growing. His new job in the tech industry will be a better fit for his family. I bet he'll tell his new coworkers that everything they do together is going to be good. And I hope they believe him, because when Kevin's in charge, it will be.
I wanted to wear something nice for Kevin's send-off tonight, but instead we get feedback from John, who writes, "Somewhere a Holiday Inn Junior suite has no drapes." And Mike, who says, "I'll take a box of popcorn and a couple of boxes of Red Hots." You try to do something nice for somebody, and that's how it turns out. Hey, another note, I'm going to be away for a little bit here, just going to be spending some more time with the family. I will see you down the line, God and 9 News management willing. You were right, Kevin, it was another good show. See you next time.